But let's talk about Julian Draxler. Another was kept secret. Big money move. PSG have shown that they could buy any player once that player has a price tag. If you don't want PSG to buy a player, don't put a tag. Once you do that, they'll come. Julian Draxler, we expected this a lot earlier, but now the move is complete. It goes to PSG from Wolfsburg. It makes them a more attacking, more dangerous team. Joseph.
Well, you might want to say a more attacking, dangerous attacking team, but you look at it and say, is Julian Draxler a good replacement for the departed, I'm talking about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who had more than 30 goals and 15 assists for Paris Saint-Germain? You must respect him for that. And for Julian Draxler, say with Wolfsburg, he hasn't been impressive. 13 games right now, no goals, 2 assists. I mean, his passing ratio, I think, was 27. So you look at that and say, compared to an Angel Di Maria, whom he will compete for, and with, I beg your pardon, in that position, Angel Di Maria, as we speak, 13 goals, they scored, he had 5 assists and more than 5 goals. So for me, it will be very difficult. Questions will be asked. Can Julian Draxler, replace Zlatan Ibrahimovic? Can he push them back to the top, and leapfrog the likes of Nice to surprise table toppers as we speak? Mario Balotelli's 8 goals, puts them in that position. So for me, it's a very difficult, but I think he will only try but cannot replicate the feat set by Zlatan.
Did he get his move, Cosmos, on reputation? Because Joseph painted a picture that we all remember. Julian Draxler, maybe like Marco Reus as well. Not what we know them to be.
Exactly.
Injuries and maybe the wrong move at some point. But did he get this move on reputation, or because he still has a lot to offer?
Well, I think that's for the technical crew of PSG to answer. They know the kind of player he is, and they're practically working.
Recent performances. Yeah. Recent performances. That's what I'm asking.
Recent performances has been particularly not impressive. Not too bad, but not being impressive. I mean, look at Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga and how he's impacted into it. But maybe he needs some sort of.
I'm surprised they were able to keep him to this point.
Yeah, maybe he needs some sort of a breath of fresh air, and the breath of fresh air can only happen in Paris for PSG. He talked about how he's going to fit into the team and all that. Maybe the coach of the side will try as much as possible to play probably a 4-5-1 formation. The problem is with the likes of Matuidi might probably suffer in the middle of the pack, especially going forward. Right now they play pretty much a 4-5-1 formation, more like a 4-9, because I do not see what is his name? What's the name of this Uruguayan player? Cavani. I do not see Cavani particularly plunging forward. But then, even with that position, even with the way he plays, he has scored. I mean, he's the highest goal scorer in Europe this season so far. So how will Draxler be able to, fit into the team? That is the question I would ask myself. But let's just say,
positive from the coach is that Julian Draxler is 22 as we speak at this point, and they have a coach who I know is good at nurturing young talents. United maybe did that at Sevilla. They won the Europa League back-to-back 3 times in a row, if I'm correct, in that one. So those are the only positive you can pick out from that move. But if you're talking about based on current form, I don't think Julian Draxler has a fantastic back.
I feel it's a good move. It's a good move for him. I mean, career-wise, a good move for him. But the problem I have with it, like as I said earlier, is how will he fit into the team? He probably play, but of course, it cannot fit into the shoe of Ibrahimovic.
Let me put you on hold so that we can go on a break.
All right.
We'll go on that break. We'll be back for more.
We need their support. These players deserve their support. We're going to try to play as best as possible, but all around the world, the fault to Claudio Bravo in the Golden Ball is fault. Here and all around the world. The rule said that in 6-yard box, the goalkeeper cannot be touched. And when he goes here and the striker made like this, is fault. But I saw in Stekelenburg, Everton against Middlesbrough in the beginning of the season, it was the same, and it was goal, okay. But I expect many times I have to adapt, and I have to understand the special rules here in England there is. So, but it was one leg, it's enough, so I learned, so now let's go into play.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about a big event on the sporting calendar for 2017. Nigeria is not going to be there. That's not news anymore. We've recovered from that. But now, we have to talk about the Nations Cup and talk about clubs that will be missing their players. But first, let's do our focus on Côte d'Ivoire, the Elephants. From past 16 years, they go into last 10 years, I beg your pardon, they go into every African Cup of Nations as favorites. Now they're defending champions. but now you have, I mean, the blend's not perfect. Some old players disappearing away, and you have a bunch of young players and some guys who's been there. But I don't know, Joseph, in your own view, do you still see them as the
Well, this is their perfect opportunity 2 years ago when they won the African Cup of Nations, because look at the caliber of players they have right now. Are they really doing well for their various clubs? Well, maybe 60% of the players, the likes of Eric Bailey of Manchester United, Yaya well to an extent. This season hasn't gotten enough play.
And he hasn't shown us that he wants to play.
Well, he has shown us that, yes, he's ready to play because he's had a decent performance.
For Cote d'Ivoire.
Well, for Cote d'Ivoire, he might be, yes. I mean, for Cote d'Ivoire, he hasn't showed us that, yes, he wants to play. But they've got some young talent, the like of Serge Aurier of Paris Saint-Germain, might come into the frame. But going forward, they still have that attacking force. Likes of Javier, we saw some 2 seasons ago. I don't think he's at his best at this point.
So right
maybe
now,
going forward, they lack their quality, but defensively they have some decent players, you know, that can help Cote d'Ivoire. Maybe move to the quarters or semis. But at this point, I think I will queue behind Algeria.
But that tag, will you still give them that tag, or you take it away?
Maybe among the top 4 teams, but I don't see them the top 2.
That's bold.
Yeah. I mean that's very bold. That's very bold, Dan. But I think I understand I understand what you're saying. The fact that Cote d'Ivoire, you know, right now they're not with their big stars. I mean, last 2 years they were with their big stars, and you could understand that they actually went all the way. Their golden generation was almost extinct before they were able to win this. But right now they have a pretty much young squad, and it's difficult to say. It's really difficult to say. The last time they had this young squad was in 2006 in Egypt, where they qualified for the World Cup in Germany, and at the Nations Cup they just managed to get into the finals, where they lost against Egypt on penalties. So now a lot of people want to say, okay, Cote d'Ivoire's side is probably not on the best and all that, but then you can never take it away from the Ivorian side. They know how to play football.
And they're experienced campaigners.
Yeah, experienced campaigners, okay. And they have some bits of experience there too.
Right.
In their goalkeeping position, they have one of the best goalkeepers. Of course, in the defense free, they have good defenders as well. Attacking free, they've got good players as well. You probably may not know them, but they have good players. In the middle of the pack,
across Europe.
Yeah, in the middle of the pack, maybe they might probably miss the services of Yaya Toure in this one, but I feel that they have players that can be able to fit in anytime, any day. So let's just see how it works out. I do not think they will win the African Cup of Nations, but I think that they'll probably compete favorably, maybe get into the semis.
Yeah, I hope we get some help from our guys behind the scenes. Joseph has forced us into a situation where we have to talk about Algeria, and he has given them that tag. But let's really talk about Algeria now. I always have a problem with that. If most of your players are coming from Europe, I fear some of the teams that the players train together a lot than, you know, teams where your star players, some of them played yesterday, some of them might still be in action today and will just join the team. But I'm going to ask you why you think that Algeria, you're queuing behind Algeria. That's way.
Well, if you look at the qualifiers, the amount of goals Algeria scored, they scored lots of goals, and that will definitely count in your team progressing to every stage in the competition. And they've got quality talents. They've got talents that when they come together as a team, they tend to deliver. Forget what they did against Nigeria. We understand that these players converge days or even hours before that game, so you must understand. But I think Algeria going into the African Cup of Nations, for the fact that they can score lots of goals, that had alluded, I'm talking about the African Cup of Nations, I think Algeria would go for get to the semis, only if their players take their chances. So Algeria for me, and maybe Ghana to an extent.
When I talk about Algeria, resist the temptation of talking about other teams.
Okay.
Stick with Algeria.
Okay.
Are you giving them that tag as well, Cosmos?
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. I'm not going to give them that tag. Yes, one of the most important teams in the African Cup of Nations, but as the deadliest team there, no. I don't think I'm going to give it to them yet. Algeria in the African Cup of Nations, whatever you're going to say, they have not particularly done impressed me after they hosted in 1990, where they won Nigeria in the final by 2-0. So they have
single goal, actually.
Yeah, sorry, single goal. They have not particularly impressed me. For me, yeah, going into a competition in the qualifiers, they are killers. They kill everybody. But when it gets to the main competition, it's pretty much not a very interesting one. I mean, They are not in form right now based on the 2 matches they played in the World Cup qualifier. They drew their first game at home to Cameroon and, of course, lost in Port Harcourt to Nigeria by 3-1. So they know that they have to play well. They just changed coaches. You know, this coach has only played 1 match, and he wants to make sure that this African Cup of Nations is a time for him to do what he wants to do.
Yeah,
but
just let me throw something.
Yeah,
thank you, Cosmos. Just let me throw something at you that might probably change your mind. A lot of people feel that some of the good teams in North Africa are like Europeans, and if you're like Europeans, it means you have a soft center. It means you don't have a spine. This is African football. You're going to be kicked around. The referee is going to look away from some things. You're not going to get the kind of protection that you get in the English Premier League and all those other places. Would that, you know, count against the Algerians?
Well, I don't think it will, because, I mean, when it comes to the African Cup of Nations, you look at the teams that have won the African Cup of Nations, you want to tip the North Africans as, you know, as marquee teams going into these competitions when it matters the most. So, for me, I would say the non-African teams like Algeria, Egypt, you still expect them to get to the Final 4 or probably the Final 8 in the competition. But at this point, you want to look outside the North African teams and say, maybe Senegal. You know, no one is talking about Senegal.
Yeah.
Sadio Mane might be coming to the frame and, you know, come to deliver something and push Senegal all the way. But I would say, based on experience and with the Nations Cup, or what rather the Nations Cup have taught us, you still want to give the North African teams the chance to get to the final.
In spite of Cosmos, in spite of, you know, not having, look at the Ivorians, they won the last time. They had the muscle, if I can use it that way. They had the muscle, endurance was key, physical fitness was key. There were some games they didn't play well, but they just stuck at it. Game against Ghana, if it wasn't penalties, if probably they had 5 more minutes, Ghana probably could have won. And that shows you what the African game really is. And the officiating as well, you're not going to get the kind of protection you get.
Yeah, certainly. Of course, that's something in the African Cup of Nations. But then you just have to have a mixture of everything: the physical, and of course.
And you feel the Algerians have it?
I feel the Algerians they have it.
Okay.
They have it. They understand that they are going to be playing. I mean, in the qualifiers, they went to some places that usually is not a very
not easy to get results.
Not easy to get results, and they got good results. I remember a particular game that they played, they were actually 2 goals down, and somehow they came back and won the match. So I think they can be able to do it. But there is the African Cup of Nations where anything can happen. It's the African Cup of Nations where you see the best teams. The best teams are not particularly, or the teams that are rated well are not particularly the best teams. So let's just see how it goes. I hope Algeria, the disappointment of the World Cup qualifier, would not run into the African Cup of Nations. Same thing for Ghana too, because he mentioned Ghana. It's the same thing too.
All right.